When we meet with people for coaching, we go through the health, energy, and longevity plan where number one is limiting carbs, number two is finding satisfaction in healthy fats and proteins, and number six is then limiting when you eat. Those are kind of the three legs of the stool that have the most impact on especially restoring the metabolic health. So number one is we've been talking about a lot, which is limiting the carbs. And that really is the priority. And even as you're reading the labels, you want to be counting the grams of carbs per serving and how many servings you're eating. But if all you're doing is denying yourself, if all you're doing is thinking negative and like, I can't have this, I can't have that, you're really setting yourself up for failure. Because one of the things that we've learned in social science research is that we all have a limited pool of willpower. We have one tiny little pool of willpower that's available for everything hard we have to do, everything that requires willpower. And so it isn't like you have a pile of willpower for eating, another pile of willpower for your work. It's one pool of willpower. And every subtraction that you make from that.
And some people's pools are smaller than other people's.
Yes, but it's finite for all of us. Especially when you're talking about the dietary domain. You want to be focusing on the positive, focusing on what you can eat and not focusing so much on what you can't. My example of this when I started, and part of what maybe makes this easier for me, is that I was diagnosed with celiac disease 13, 14 years ago, something like that. And because of that, I had to avoid wheat, barley, and rye. And so I've been accustomed to saying, okay, there's some things that aren't on the tab for me. At the same time, what I even learned back then was what I needed to say was, but guess what? I can have steak and baked potatoes with sour cream and all that because those were gluten-free. So now as we moved into the low-carb way of eating, it's going, okay, well, let's just forget the potatoes. Okay, but I can still have the steak, and you can have all the things that are on the green list. So by focusing on the green list and making sure that you get satisfied and eating until you're full, there's a natural feedback mechanism with fat and protein kind of foods that you can't gorge yourself. There's only so much that you can eat. One of the stories we like to tell with our members is, you see some of these steakhouses where they have a 5-pound steak, and they say, well, you get it free if you can eat the whole thing, and nobody can ever eat the whole thing.
But you can always have more ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. There's always room for the carbs. But if you get yourself full enough with the healthy fats, with a moderate amount of protein, then you're going to not have the burning hunger, the cravings so much. And so that's really the focus that we want to put this time, is to say, if you're thinking just negative all the time, if you're thinking about what you can't have, instead shift that thinking to think about, what do I get to enjoy? And again, that's why these low-carb recipes that Lisa's developed and brought together and that we've tested within the HELPcare Clinic family, those are so important because they are deeply satisfying.
They have a lot of flavor because unlike a low-calorie, low-fat diet that's just kind of always leaves you wanting, this is rich. You can cook in bacon grease, you can use butter, you can have the full-fat dairy, and it's just very enjoyable, very rich.
So enjoy.
Yes.